Financial markets are definitely perplexing. They're always going up and down, all over the place. You need to get an independent way of assessing price action. To do that, we use the cheat sheet, which is available completely free of charge from CTKSMethod.org. In this video, we're going to go through the different rows and I'll explain what they mean. Okay, let's get into it and let's run the numbers. Inside row 1 of the cheat sheet, we look at the VIX DXY, dollar-yen combo, the 10-year yield, the 2-year yield, and US oil. Row 1 is all about risk-on or risk-off activity, and that blue line just behind is Bitcoin. Now, what do we notice at the moment? When we look at the DXY, we can see Bitcoin is following the DXY, and the US dollar-yen combo is just a confirmation signal of the DXY, so we use it backwards. We're trying to ascertain if the DXY is going up or not, and we can see the dollar-yen is definitely showing strength inside the DXY. Now, something really interesting, with Bitcoin following the DXY and of course its cousin, dollar-yen, what we see here is the VIX is not inverting the DXY, as is generally the case. Therefore, the question is, what is leading the Bitcoin and the crypto market? If we invert Bitcoin, we can see that particular pattern playing out. Right now, the VIX is responsible for crypto's movements, not the DXY. So if you're looking at the DXY and saying, crypto has to go down because the DXY is going up, you're looking at the wrong thing. We can also see that the US 10-year yield is coming up and the US 2-year is also coming up. Oil took a bit of a sell-off going into the close of the last session. Now, what does all this tell us? It gives us a really mixed message, but the main thing is with the VIX coming down, we expect row 2 to be going up. Row 1 is literally all about fear. Row 2 is about greed. Swapping across to row 2, we can see junk bonds, the euro dollar, the Aussie dollar, gold, silver, and copper. And what do we notice here? The upward trajectory in junk bonds. This means that greed is entering the market, and we can also see that Bitcoin is getting the hint. What about the euro dollar? We can see that a little bit down, but remember that the DXY, the inverse of the DXY's movements is the euro dollar. That's why we look at the euro dollar to try to predict the DXY. And I talked a lot about this inside the service in this month's video. Also, the Aussie dollar is focusing quite nicely on predicting where Bitcoin's price movements are going. We can see that gold and silver have come down. And also, copper has come down. They rallied up hard and then sold off. Rallied up hard, sold off. Rallied, sold off. The major thing to just pair your attention to are junk bonds at the current time. Junk bonds is literally the inverted directional movement of the VIX. So you can see that the VIX is coming down and junk bonds is going up. These two are confirming each other's movements. That's why we need to gain an understanding as to where the markets are heading. With junk bonds going higher, it's positive for the markets. Row 3 is all about the major indices, and we know Bitcoin cannot escape the stock market's gravity. And look how Bitcoin is playing out right here, which is of course the blue line. It's following the S&P 500. What about the Dow? Yeah, pretty much following that. And the Russell? Yes sirree. And what about the Nasdaq? Notice this weakness just coming into the close on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. Something that you might want to keep your eye on. Therefore, we have row 1, the VIX coming down, row 2, junk bonds coming up, and row 3, the indices just going for it. So far, it's all positive, but there's a little bit of a sign of weakness towards the tail end. In row 4, we look underneath the hood of the financial system into the major stocks such as Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, and Nvidia. And what did we see with Apple? Doing quite well. Apple got bought into the close. That's a pretty interesting one. Microsoft was sold into the close, and you can see that difference there. Even though Apple was bought into the close, there is still some weakness, but they're holding up Apple. What's also interesting is Nvidia weakened into the close as well. Many people inside the stock market don't realize that crypto is a really good indicator of risk on or risk off. It's kind of like the VIX or junk bonds. In fact, it's just about the same. For example, many people who were buying Nvidia would never have known, potentially, that crypto is behind the potential upward price movement because crypto is incredibly risk sensitive. This doesn't mean the crypto movements cause Nvidia to rise or Apple to rise. It's a lot more complex than that, but it does give you an understanding that you need to keep your eye on these things. It's also a good thing to just look at the major market indices all around the world. We can see that China just put on a stimulus-led rally and then has retraced back. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments. Do you think that China will resume down? And do you think that's why oil is coming down at the moment? Or do you think China will revert back up? We can see that Bitcoin and Taiwan's market have been doing quite well. There was a lot of military activity over the past 24 to 48 hours between China and Taiwan, so just bear that in mind. But those drills have stopped. We can see the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 coming up, the Dow and the Russell, Germany's market, the DAX and the Nikkei, Japan's market coming up. Also, Australia's market and the UK is finally catching on that it can go up. Good on you, UK. Inside row 5, we get into the crypto market. The blue line is Bitcoin. This is total crypto market cap. You can see how closely they're associating with each other. Something really interesting happened here in the past 24 hours. We'll go into the structure to explain exactly what happened there. And people inside the service, you already knew that we were going to get something like that happening. We can see Bitcoin coming up pretty well. Very nice performance, but it went up and it stopped itself out. I'll explain why a little bit later. What you can see here is Ethereum just following Bitcoin's gravitational pull. Inside the main markets, MicroStrategy decided to take a bit of a breather. Beware of this kind of divergence. We'll have to check in tomorrow, but just be aware of this. Row 6 looks a little bit more in depth on Bitcoin pairs such as Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash. We look into the exchange tokens such as BNB, Binance Coin, and we look at the counterpart to Ethereum, Ethereum Classic. Because when Bitcoin is rallying, we expect Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash to be rallying as well. You may have noticed this. On Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, they can throw very good movements on the direction, potentially, of Bitcoin's price action. Please bear that in mind. Also, Ethereum Classic can do the same with ETH. ETH has been wildly suppressed of late. Don't be surprised if the Ethereum ecosystem starts to rock and roll. And we can see that Binance Coin is just pretty much following Bitcoin's gravitational pull at the current time. The final row is row 7, also a crypto row. This is where we kind of do the same thing like we did with the stocks in the stock market. We're looking underneath the hood and trying to figure out what Bitcoin and therefore the entirety of the crypto space can do. Always bear in mind, we're always looking back to Bitcoin and back to total crypto market cap whenever we look at another chart. For example, here's ADA, Cardano, Solana, Dogecoin and XRP. What do we see with ADA? It's just following Bitcoin's gravitational pull. Solana was just a little bit choppy, but just following it, just not exactly to the ping, but directionally, yes. What about Dogecoin? Following it, we're seeing a bit of strength in Dogecoin. You can use the memes, especially the memes when money tends to pile back into the market to determine how the market strength is going. And we can see Doge is clearly giving us a positive signal inside the crypto market. So you can see a couple of tricks and tips that you can use from this. And also XRP, very similar to the price behavior of Solana here. Okay, so just keep that one in mind. And XRP has been flatlining for quite a while now. XRP does tend to get a little bit explosive when it takes off, so just be aware of that. We've just done a real quick run through on the cheat sheet. You can do it that quickly. What you want to understand is how the market is heading and you want to do it rapidly. In the past 24 hours, there's been $224 million worth of liquidations. You can see the vast majority were short liquidations. That's what's pushed price up. But you also notice how it was pushed up and then flatlined. Why did it flatline? If you're liking the content so far, please smash that like button, and if you're new, a very warm welcome, and welcome back, CTKS family. One of the things that we do, we look at the most statistically significant support and resistance levels first. So let's check in with Bitcoin and see why Bitcoin's rally was cut short. In the past 24 hours, we had that explosive rally inside Bitcoin. But why did Bitcoin stop right here? A lot of people were saying, Bitcoin to $100 billion trillion, but then it started to come down. Now we're starting to see a little bit of positive news here. But why did it stop there? The answer is always the same: structure. It's so important to look at structure. We saw we had a positive CTKS gap, very light structural resistance up until around just a little bit under the 66,100 mark. That structural resistance basically pretty much acted like a brick wall and pushed the price down. And we had a degree of positive air in here because we didn't come down to the 65,500 level. It didn't cut under that, which meant the buyers were defending the 65,500 level. And now we can see that the 66,100 level is in the process of getting taken out. So therefore, what are the bullish cases and what are the bearish cases for Bitcoin? The bulls will seek to convert this 66,100 into structural support and therefore rally up to the 67,000, just taking out these two levels of structural resistance. If we confirm those as support, that is looking really good. So the bulls will seek to push price beyond 67,000. What about the bears? They will seek to fail the 66,100 mark and also the 65,500. They will seek to push the price down to 0, so 64,640, where there's structural support here. So you can see there are two very clear strategies: up to 67 or down to around 64.5. Price is always moving in a wave. That's why we refer back to the cheat sheet. Now let's just do a little bit of analysis on that. If the VIX continues to go down, junk bonds continues to go up, at the moment we've got a bit of a disconnection between the DXY and Bitcoin. The DXY is going up and Bitcoin is also going up. So therefore your issue is actually with the VIX coming down, junk bonds going up, and the major indices continuing to come up. If we see that, we would expect something around that 67,000 or potentially above in the next 24 hours. If VIX starts to rebase and starts to spike up, if that happens, we would expect negative pressure on junk bonds and a potential push down to around that 64.5 mark. This is why it's so incredibly important to contextualize where price is going. You can listen to all the stories you want, and probably a lot of people did. When they saw this rally, they just piled in there, and then it came back, and then they said, oh my God, it's all wrong, I need to get out, and they sold. Only for it to go back up again, and they say, oh, let's pile in here, and it went down, oh, let's sell. You get the idea. You don't want to do that. You just want to know where your structure is inside the charts that you're viewing. And we know one other little secret: we must look at total crypto market cap as well. Total crypto market cap gets its strength from Bitcoin. It's typically Bitcoin and then total crypto market cap. We saw a very similar phasing or a directional alignment playing out between Bitcoin and total crypto market cap. But what we need to understand, what is the actual structure? Okay, what do we see here? You remember as Bitcoin was coming back to 65,500, it was very well defended. That's because there was a structural level on Bitcoin and also a structural level on total crypto market cap. That gave it a double whammy because the buyers were coming in from two places, from the alts as well as Bitcoin. And you know that particular resistance level has started to get taken out. Now, one of the things that we note, the resistance is closer here than what it is with Bitcoin. So the alts could just do a little bit of consolidation and flattening out. Please bear this in mind. The other thing is that we've got tremendous structural overhead resistance. Remember what stopped Bitcoin from going up? This is far stronger for the alts. So just something to bear in mind. And look at this structural support playing down here near the base of that outbreak. Now, outbreak, that's kind of funny. Popping back to Bitcoin, we can see that this structural level of around 66,100 was the biggest problem with the total crypto market cap and, of course, Bitcoin. That's what stopped it from going higher. But we're starting to get above it. We're starting to create higher highs, which is a very good sign, but we need to keep that up. We do have a positive CTKS gap, so that means it could fly up very, very quickly. This is literally a 5-minute chart, so you can see it can move explosively up. But of course, with Bitcoin, we would expect things to just consolidate around that 66,800 before going higher. But what I wanted to show you here was the base here. So for example, just around here. What it means is that total crypto market cap will be supporting Bitcoin around this base as well. So you can also expect a little bit of support inside the market from a total crypto market cap perspective around that $65,000 level. I left a pinned comment in yesterday's video. What would you like to see more of or less of inside the daily videos? I'll do the same for this video. Please let me know. There's a form that you can just share your ideas on. I really want to help you out. I hope this video has helped you, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.